We are pleased to welcome you to the local campaign here on Rogers TV. As we get closer to Election Day, which is October the 24th, we turn our attention to local municipal debates. And today's debate is with Ward 19, Orléans South-Navan. And before I introduce you to the candidates, let me walk you through the format for those of you at home and, of course, for our candidates here in studio. Each candidate will begin with an opening statement. They will have 60 seconds for that opening statement, and that will be done in a random order that we just chose just a few moments ago. So after the opening statements, we get into the debate portion of this format. And so what's going to happen is I'm going to ask one of our candidates a question. They will have 45 seconds to answer that question, and then we open it up to all candidates. So the floor is open and the discussion goes on, and then at the end of that discussion, we go back to that candidate that I originally asked the question to, and they will have 30 seconds to wrap that up. So we'll go back and forth talking about many of the important topics, not only for the ward, but of course for all residents in Ottawa. And then at the end of that, we finish with our closing statements, and each candidate will have 60 seconds for those closing statements. So let me introduce you to our candidates here today from Orléans South-Navan. First, we have Yvette Ashiri. Yvette, welcome.
Hello, everyone.
And Catherine Kitts. Catherine, welcome.
Hi.
Great to have you both here. As I said, we'll begin with our opening statements, which is 60 seconds. So Yvette, you will start things off. You have 60 seconds.
Hello, everyone. I'm Yvette Ashiri, your City Councillor candidate for Ward 19. This is the community where my husband and I have been living for over a decade and are raising our daughters. I'm running because I understand the challenges that impact the living conditions of rural and urban residents. Our community in Orléans South-Navan is growing, and we deserve strong representation at City Hall. I know what our community needs, and I'm dedicated to making life better for everyone. I'm a proud public servant, and I have served our community as a volunteer for many years. Members of our community need more programming and initiatives to ensure their safety and inclusion. We need to protect our environment and prioritize the growth of our local small businesses and local farmers, especially with aiding farmers still trying to recover from the May storm. With your trust, I want to serve you and your community.
Thank you, Yvette. Over to you, Catherine. You have 60 seconds for your opening statement.
Great, thanks. Hi, everyone. I'm Catherine Kitts. I'm a lifelong East End resident, and I've had the pleasure of being your city councillor in Cumberland Ward since 2020. With the ward boundary changes, I know some of you will be new to Ward 19, but I've already been working with your community associations on the issues that matter most to you. I was elected on a promise to be a collaborative leader, someone who is responsive and accessible and would communicate heavily with the community. So I'm very proud to have kept those commitments. And in 2 short years, working in partnership with you, we've been able to do a lot. Pushed forward on the Brian Coburn extension. We're reviewing problematic intersections. We saved the Nonce Woods. I secured over $10 million in road resurfacing for our badly neglected rural roads, added traffic calming measures to over 70 streets, and more. But I am running again because I don't want to take my foot off the gas. We have a lot of irons in the fire, and I look forward to continuing to work with you in Ward 19.
All right, thank you, Catherine. So we begin the debate portion. Now I start with you, Yvette. You'll have 45 seconds to open up the debate. Let's talk about a couple of things when it comes to roads. Road infrastructure, there's a long list of roads in your ward in particular that need a lot of attention. How would you go about prioritizing that and scheduling other infrastructure around that, which is something that many residents feel isn't done properly, and many residents don't feel like they get the same level of services as other parts of the city? You have 45 seconds to speak on that.
That is very true. Definitely, roads infrastructure is very important in our neighborhoods, and I've been hearing a lot of our neighbors and residents complaining about that. I think that we should go with priority and looking where the need is. And to start with, I would look into the rural areas where we have many roads that are still badly damaged. Also, it's important to listen to our residents, to speak to them, to increase public consultation, because this has not been enough. There are still many residents who are complaining that they are underserved, and also it is very important to pay attention to everyone's needs.
Okay, thank you. It's now open to both of you on the floor, so feel free to jump in at any time.
Great. Well, I don't know if you want to get me started on the state of our roads, but especially in the rural area, our roads are falling apart. There's no question. And I always like to remind senior management that in the rural area, supporting our road infrastructure is supporting small businesses and the agricultural community. It's very expensive to replace or fix some of the agricultural equipment that gets damaged on our roads. And as I said in my intro, I was able to secure over $10 million in road resurfacing in just this past year. Roads like Frank Kenny, Milton Road, Old Montreal Road, but it's just a drop in the bucket. And with some of those projects, what I was able to do was advocate for paved shoulders as well. So that's also supporting cycling infrastructure and creating more spine cycling routes, like we saw on Navan and Old Montreal Road. But we do need to continue to secure investment here in the East End. Turning to the suburban part of the ward, one of our largest infrastructure projects, the Brian Coburn Extension, has been at a stalemate for decades now because of a fight with the NCC, and that's been one of my largest priorities, something I've been really pushing to advance. I was able to bring a motion forward this year requesting help from our federal minister to direct the NCC to work with us to come forward with a solution because our roads are at capacity. We see congestion everywhere. It impacts your daily life.
Talking about congestion, have you thought when we are doing this that it is important to come back and assess how is it on the ground? Because I drive every morning and the congestion is way too much.
Absolutely.
So it is important, yes, to fix our roads, but we also have to make sure that we know what is happening on the ground, not to increase the commute and stress to our residents.
An excellent point. I actually, at one point, so the Brian Coburn and 10th Line intersection, I hear about it all the time. It's failing. People are having a lot of difficulty in every direction turning left. I disagreed with what city staff were telling me about that intersection, so I actually sent my staff to the intersection to collect data and report back to staff.
That's not what I've been hearing at the door. I was on Hepatica Way, and many of the residents, they have been telling me that you did not respond to that
on
need.
Hepatica, it's actually a speeding issue, and they are getting new speeding or traffic calming measures this year. Speeding is one of the largest issues brought to my attention. We have it's rampant all over the ward, but Hepatica is getting new traffic calming measures, and over 70 other streets are also getting new traffic calming measures this year. I spent the entirety of my traffic
Sorry,
calming
that's all the
budget.
time we have there, Catherine, but Yvette, you have 30 seconds to wrap up on the topic.
Thank you. So definitely maintaining our roads is very important, and I'll be working to ensure that all the roads, especially those who are the most used, are being maintained properly. But also I would like to make sure that there are not that when we build and when we repair our roads, that we pay attention to the impact that it's going to have in the entire community.
Okay, thank you very much to both of you. Catherine, you'll open up this one. You'll have 45 seconds for it. How would you help balance the need for further development and intensification while preserving not only green space, but there is a certain lifestyle that many people have become accustomed to, in particular in the rural areas, but the suburbs as well. I leave it to you to open it up with 45 seconds.
Yeah, no, that's a great question, Derick. Obviously, in Orléans South-Navan, we have a lot of land that's slated for development, and people are, seeing construction projects pop up all around them. Again, I come back to transportation infrastructure. We are very underserved when it comes to transit in Orléans South-Navan. We have these major infrastructure projects that have been on the books for decades and haven't been able to move forward. And we cannot continue to develop the way that we have for the last 15 to 20 years if we don't make those necessary infrastructure upgrades. We have a housing crisis, we have an affordability crisis, so we do need to increase our supply in the city, but we have to ensure that we are building healthy, smart communities where you can walk, bike, take transit, and have a good quality of life.
All right, I open it up to everyone. Go ahead, Yvette.
Yes, definitely. We need to build smarter. We need to make sure that it is accessible. Our roads are accessible to everyone. And to that, I would like to ask you, as you've been for 2 years at City Council, what are the initiatives that you took in order to maintain that?
Well, a really great example is actually the Nonce Woods. So when I got elected, the Nonce Woods was slated for development. The community, this is a beloved urban forest in Avalon. The community was really upset about this, and I was told, this is a done deal. I don't like taking that no for an answer, so I was looking for a creative solution. I was able to work with the community association, with city staff, and the developer to come up with a creative solution, and we were able to swap land so that the city could retain the Nonce Woods in its entirety and that the developer could build what it wanted to build elsewhere. So these are the kinds of community, the collaborative spirit that I bring to the table, because as I said, we need to develop, but we have to do so in a way that works for communities, in collaboration with community associations, and we can sometimes think outside the box a little bit. Again, I was talking about infrastructure. In our transportation master plan, we've had the Brian Coburn extension for nearly 3 decades. It hasn't moved forward. This is critical. It's not just a road, it includes a transit way that would connect all of South Orleans, and as I said, very underserved by transit. Transit's a critical component if we're going to build the way that the city wants to build in our official plan, and that's where we are going to be able to put density, where we're going to be able to diversify our housing stock.
That's a lot of time, Catherine. I'm going to bring it back to Yvette here.
Yes, so you're talking about transit, definitely transit. It is a big portion of Orléans South-Navan, and I would like to make sure that every resident in Orléans South-Navan, especially those who don't have the opportunity to have a car, like our students. I've been hearing a lot of students missing their class, not being able to go to places. We have many newcomers as well who don't drive yet, and they cannot use public transit. In our community, we definitely need to better this service, and I'll be working on that.
All right, thank you, Catherine. You have 30 seconds to wrap up on the topic.
Thanks, Derick. So in your initial question, you said, how do we manage growth and continue to consult with communities? I think consultation is very important. As I said, I'm responsive, I'm accessible. I've, door knocked in between elections. I've dropped flyers myself on streets when there's a development application in somebody's neighborhood, so that they are aware and that they can participate in the consultation process. So I think as we continue to grow, we need to ensure that the communities are stakeholders in that discussion.
All right, thank you very much. Next topic, we come back to you, Yvette. Again, you'll have 45 seconds to open up the topic. There's a growing concern over the city's growing debt. Where would you set tax rates over the next 4 years, taking that into account? Over to you.
The growing debt is definitely a big issue and a concern. Many residents are really worried about the future, and I would like to make sure that the taxes are not increased as the rate of everything is increasing. It is important to save, to make sure that the residents, they have also the support that they need, and also the funds to raise their families and to live an affordable life.
All right, I open it up then. Catherine, Yvette?
Great, yeah, so when I've been knocking on doors, what I'm hearing from residents, especially seniors living on a fixed income, is that they can't afford to be paying higher property taxes. With inflation, with the cost of groceries and gas what they are, people are just getting by in many cases. And so I think we need to continue on the path of very modest yearly increases so that we can keep the lights on in the city and move forward with the projects that matter most to you, but without putting everything on the backs of taxpayers. Some of my colleagues around the table have wanted to increase taxes or with proposed alternative budgets, and I voted to keep taxes at a reasonable rate. And I also think we need to hold our provincial and federal counterparts to account on the promises and on the services that they need to deliver, and so that the city can focus on the foundational services that we should be delivering. And I think, one thing that's been talked about a lot is the idea of free transit. I know, one of the advocacy groups that supports you, Yvette, is for free transit. That's something that I'm hearing from residents is absolutely not possible at this time. As I said, We are very underserved when it comes to transit in Orléans South-Navan. A free transit would be at least 13% increase on your taxes.
Catherine, I'll just come back over to Yvette. You brought up free transit. So Yvette, did you want to share your opinion?
I had the opportunity to live in countries where there are free transit, but also in countries where public transportation is more accessible to everyone. Yes, I am proud to have been endorsed by a group who advocate for free transit. However, I still think that free transit is not necessarily the solution. However, we can make sure by stronger measures and also looking at what other countries are doing in order to have a better public transit accessible to
Yvette,
everyone.
I'm going to just go back to Catherine because you'll be able to wrap. Go ahead, Catherine.
Sure, yeah, thank you. No, I agree that we need to give better transit, not necessarily free transit. And maybe we can, freeze taxes for certain groups to make it more equitable, but we need better transit before we need free transit. We need to not only improve commute times, people that are traveling from Orléans South-Navan to get to any of the major universities.
We need better transit, yes, just as you're
hour.
saying. And I would like to ask you on that, what happened to when you decided not to vote against the investigation regarding
Unfortunately,
the
Yvette, we've run out of time, so Catherine can't give a rebuttal here, but I'll give you 30 seconds to wrap up here.
So definitely we need to keep our taxes lower to support the members of our community. There is inflation, and the members, the residents that have been speaking at the door are really worried about the future of tomorrow, about the future of their families, and also with the rate of the housing and the lack of affordable housing, it is very important to make sure that we look at what matters.
All right, thank you very much, Yvette. We come back to you, Catherine. You'll have 45 seconds here to open up with this one. Do you believe the city of Ottawa can and should have a role in combating climate change? And if so, what are some of the solutions? Over to you.
Yeah, we definitely have to play our part. I think, we saw a very concrete example of the devastating impacts of climate change when the May 21st storm absolutely leveled my rural communities. And this council did approve a very robust action plan on climate change. It's called Energy Evolution, and we've started to implement some of those recommendations, like retrofitting city facilities to be better, to be more energy efficient. We've got, first fleet of electric buses, which is a step in the right direction. As I keep saying, better transit is critical. We need to build better communities where you don't need to take a car for every errand. You can walk, you can bike, you can take transit. We need to also hold firm on protecting agricultural land to ensure food security.
Okay, I open it up to everyone. Go ahead.
Yes, definitely our environment is very important. We are living in unprecedented times. And I've been on the ground when we had the storm, helping neighbors, removing trees. And
I do want to interrupt you there because I was on the ground day in and day out. As many people know, I live in Navan. I saw the impacts firsthand, and I believe you were registering for the election during the May 21st storm while everyone was still out of power.
I've been serving this community, being a candidate or without being a candidate, because I care for this community, and I don't need to be reminded about that. What I would like to say here, when you mentioned that you put a motion in order to seek help for our local farmers, yes, but it's only after 100 days that you decided to react. But don't you think that 100 days is too much in order to get results? I don't think that people in those communities
would question my dedication to them at all, but part of being a councillor is you have to work with your provincial and federal counterparts. You don't always want to bite the hand that feeds. So in the back channels, I have been pushing my provincial counterpart to come through with activating the disaster relief for Recovery for Ontarians
And
program.
where are we now?
And I
Where are we
reached
now?
a boiling
Where are
point
we now?
after
We
100
still
days.
don't have.
I'm not
we still
taking
don't
no
have
for an
received
answer.
the 400. The one we still haven't. They still haven't received the funds. So what I want to say here is that our residents, they need someone who is able to get the result and in efficient,
And
efficiently
can I
and
ask you what
timely
you would have
manner.
done differently? How would you have secured
I
those
would have
funds?
I would have made it a top priority.
So put a motion
and
forward at the very first council
It is
meeting
im-
to request the assistant.
It is
work with the
important to
mayor's
put a
office and the
motion,
premier's
yes,
office,
but you need to do the
minister.
follow-up. It's okay to put a motion, but it
I
is
have
important,
been
more
following
important to
up,
follow up.
And again, I don't think that the rural communities question my dedication to them. I have been on the ground day in and day out. As I said, my own property was impacted. I lost 40 trees at my own home, but I was out there in my community getting them the services they needed.
We are to
not
serve
only in
all
the
the
days
residents, not
after
only
the
the
storm.
rural resident. We have to
Well, we're
serve
talking
all
about
the
the storm,
residents.
of course, but we're talking
Not
about
only
the storm.
Well, we were talking about solutions to climate change, but we did get onto the storm, and I appreciate it because it was a very difficult time for the ward. There's no doubt, as well as other wards in the city. We're going to change up the format a little bit here, but before that, Catherine, you can wrap up. You've got 30 seconds here.
Yeah, so as I was saying in my intro, we have energy evolution. We've got some good steps, and we need to take action on them. And one thing that's going to be coming up in this next term of council is about waste diversion. We need to do a better job of that, and I think we need to seriously start talking about incineration as well, because the options that have been presented so far, I don't know if they're going to go far enough to increase our diversion rates. And I think we also need to hold our provincial and federal counterparts to account on the commitments that they have made and target producers.
Okay, thank you. That is time. As I said, we're going to change the format. There will be no debate here. I'm just going to throw out a question. Each of you will have 60 seconds to answer that question to viewers at home. Let's talk policing. There's been a lot of focus on policing and whether we should be reallocating some of those funds to other social services, government agencies that are funded by the municipality. What is your position on policing and the budget in this city and whether we should reallocate some of those funds? Yvette, I start with you.
Smart spending. I would say smart spending. What's most important, it's when we talk about policing, it's also transparency. There have been a lot of lack of trust within our police, and we've all seen what happened previously with the occupation. And what I would like to say here, as a Black woman, I know that we need to allocate more funds into services that will support members of our community who are struggling with mental health. And I've been advocating all my time here for society without violence. So I understand that safety is a big concern for many residents, and I'm absolutely committed to addressing this issue. And I think big part of addressing the issue is to prioritize definitely the services.
All right, that is
and
time.
reallocate that.
Thank you, Yvette. Catherine, you have 60 seconds, same topic.
Thank you. We're a growing city, and I think, and what I'm hearing from people at doors that they're concerned about is that we're starting to see some of those big city problems. Obviously, more gang violence locally. Orleans is a pretty safe place, or the East End is a pretty safe place, but people are worried about speeding. They're worried about dangerous driving, car thefts. We need Ottawa police to do what only they can do, which is respond to these violent and dangerous crimes. But there are many things that Ottawa police are doing that they're not the best. It's not a debate.
No, this isn't a debate,
It's not a
Yvette.
debate.
Ahead,
They're
Catherine.
not the best persons to respond. And so this council, and something that I'm really proud of, is that we've been working hard towards a mental health response team, which would send social workers instead of police to nonviolent mental health calls. We've seen this model work in other municipalities. So I think when we're detasking, we need to look at things like automated speed enforcement, which can take the place and free up police to do, as I said, to work on violent crime and dangerous crimes.
All right, thank you both. We move on to the next question. Same format. I'll start again with you, Yvette. Let's talk about transparency and public consultation. Many residents feel that their views aren't being heard. And the other thing that comes up when it comes to transparency is donations. And should candidates have to publicly put out their donations, significant donations, and those in particular from developer developer-connected individuals. You'll have 60 seconds for this, Yvette.
At the core of my priorities in the Orléans South-Navan community, I'm committed to being a connected and accessible councillor that listens to residents. That's why I want to establish a ward council that includes representatives from community associations and relevant stakeholders from across the ward that meets monthly to discuss ward issues in order to ensure proper consultation on all policy decisions. When it comes to developers' accountability, I think it is important that our council are free of any hold with the developers. And here we have our incumbent who in 2020 when she ran, 60% of funding came from the developers corporate. So to me it is very important not to be attached to that.
Thank you, Yvette. Catherine, same topic, you have 60 seconds.
Thank you. I think I touched on this earlier, but I think consultation is very important. As I said, I have an open door policy. I collaborate heavily with the community. We've got 10 community associations in Cumberland Ward. I would attend myself in person, those association meetings as much as I could, and if I couldn't make it, a staff member would attend on my behalf. So that really close collaboration with the community I think is essential, and it helps bring that consultation to the city council table. So that's something I'm looking forward to continuing. On the subject of developer donations, I was very transparent in 2020 that I would be accepting all legal donations, but I was absolutely clear that that would not compromise my integrity. And I said, let my actions speak for myself. And I think I've proven time and time again, the Nance Woods is a great example, that I've been in the residents' corner, holding developers to account. We need to work with them. We're a growing community, but we need to make sure that they're building the communities that we want to see. And in this election, I have not spent any developer money on my campaign.
All right, thank you very much to both of you. It is now time for our closing statements. You'll have 60 seconds for those closing statements, and we'll do it in reverse order from how we began today. So Catherine Kitts, you have 60 seconds.
Thank you, Derick. So I believe that this is a critical election. We are going to have at least 12 new councillors around the table and a new mayor. Being elected in the by-election, I had no choice but to ramp up quickly, and you now have an opportunity to re-elect a councillor that can hit the ground running, which I think is absolutely essential for the residents of Orléans South-Navan. Not only is our city growing rapidly, we're projected to grow to 1.4 million by 2046, but our ward is growing rapidly. So as we've been talking about, you need a representative that is going to ensure that growth is managed properly, and that is a collaborator, is someone that's going to listen to you, that's going to work with you and bring your issues to the table, because the issues that we are tackling at the city level, and one of the reasons I wanted to run for city council, is because they impact your day-to-day life. I want to thank my fellow candidate for putting your name forward. I know how much it takes to run an election, but I really think I have earned your vote, and I look forward to continuing to represent you.
Thank you very much, Catherine. Yvette Ashiri, you have 60 seconds for your closing statement.
Let's ask ourselves, what kind of leadership does Orléans South-Navan need? It is time, and more than time, to give leadership to a woman who knows how to listen and take action. Imagine having someone at the City Council who knows how to defend your right and make your voice heard. In the East End, we are always thought of last. I will make sure that we are heard first. Over the past few months, my volunteers and I have been building a grassroots campaign led by the people. I'm not here to work for the developers. Yes, we need development, but I am here to work for you, as I've always done, and I'm ready to stand up for your rights and on what matters most to you. Together with you, I want to write the next chapter of Orléans South-Navan to create more vibrant and inclusive neighborhoods. My dear neighbors, let me serve you as your city councillor on October 24th.
All right, thank you very much. Really appreciate your time today. I wish you both the best of luck. Thank you for watching at home. A reminder that the municipal election is on October the 24th. Thanks so much for tuning in to your local campaign.